And we're live. Welcome back, everybody. Dip Catcher Radio back again. The late night stream. I was busy earlier today, so I couldn't stream at the normal time. But I figured that doing it in the evening may help people that, no matter where they are in the world, maybe they can't tune in at the time I'm usually on. So if you are new to the stream, we just get on here and just every day we just try to move the ball forward. So that's either building stuff, um, adding to the discussion, doing research, tweeting, answering questions. So welcome back. Just been working on a couple things this week. Main thing going on this week is that it's the second stake joining period for the base 369-day hex stake pool. So this the first stake ended on the second. It earned about 12% on its hex on both chains over the 369-day period. Ended, everything worked just fine, and so now it is entering the second phase. So again, it'll just be staked for 369 days. You can learn more about that at perpetuals.maximus.cash. Big benefit are increased gas savings. No one paid for gas. Someone paid for gas on behalf of everyone else. So you as a base user paid 0% in gas fees. So that's awesome. And then and it just ticks over into the next period. So increased gas savings and higher earnings than staking on your own due to the bigger pays better bonus. Hey Dip, everyone, what is the current status of stake hex on base? Let's pull it up. So right now, it's been kind of creeping up from the low of 73 million to now 76.9 million. So there's been about almost 4 million hex on Ethereum minted over the past, say, 2 days. It bottomed out. We had right out the gate, we had a pretty big wave of withdrawals, and then this was actually primarily done by a single person. So kind of bottomed out there. So and it's been kind of creeping up, and the P base kind of bottomed out here around 66 million, and now it's back up around 69 million. So this is about the size of what Lucky started as. So Lucky had about around 70 million hex in the 7-year stake pool that launched at the same time as this. So a couple things that I've just kind of my thoughts in general are that this is pretty consistent with the current restake rate that we've been seeing in Hex. In general, over the past 2 years, the restake rate has just gone down a lot. Someone measured it at around, I think, 20 or 30%. And so it kind of makes sense that in this case, it's down about, what is that, like 40%. So this would be if it stayed as is, this would be 76 over 112. That would put it at a 67% restake rate, which is higher than what happens outside of this. So it kind of is a pretty spot on representation of just the general trend in just lower restake rate. And I think also the The base stake started um, towards the bottom of the last or the last kind of mid range low that the price was at. I think the hex price was around 3 or 4 cents when base launched. Now the combined um, value of base is around um, around one, and so it's just in general over a year because it's basically like a hex backed stable coin that ratchets up 12% a year. This just was the price of hex is captured in this, and so people who may have just been waiting, who perhaps would have sold their hex back when base started, but decided to enter the base pool. Just some portion of that's just a portion of supply that was locked up in a way. Even though you could sell your base, it would have been very hard to sell. Like for this person who had 9 million base, it would have been pretty hard for them to sell 9 million base um, at a good rate. And so I think that it's just mainly people that had kind of been waiting for this to end so that they could potentially sell. I haven't looked into selling activity from these users yet, but if I would imagine, I that a lot of them were rolling hex into other things, either selling into stables or especially on Pulse Chain. I think that there's just a lot of appetite on Pulse Chain to be um, exploring these like higher risk, higher reward type of positions, and just staking hex for 1 year. That's overall, at least in our ecosystem, that's one of the lowest risk possible things you could possibly do. And so I think just with the all the activity around other non-hex and non-RH products on Pulse Chain, um, I think that demand for staking hex, just kind of how it is now, has moved over there. And then those things are cycles. It kind of comes at a time where people are just willing to take on more risk. There's a lot more appetite for high risk. Um, and that's part of the normal market cycle. You usually see amplified risk towards the top of a bull cycle and then towards the bottom of a bear cycle. So kind of this, you know, pretty apparent increase in demand for high risk things. That's a bottom signal. So, um, I think that that's a pretty good sign. But still, 67 million hex in a state, 69 million hex in a state pool and pulse chain. That's huge, um, and it's a really awesome user experience for staking hex because you can simply, if you time up during these mint phases, you can just mint the coin, and then it's cheaper than staking hex on your own, even on pulse chain when the fees are low right now. It still is much cheaper than what it would be without it, and you get the benefit of um, just being able to hold exposure to consecutively restaked 1 year hex, and then be able to realize those gains if you want. And that's what these people are doing is they stake there 12% on their hex, and so um, you know, and it maintained all their hex. They want to realize that gain, and that's what that is, and that's a totally fair and fine thing for those people to do. So being able to have exposure to T shares and earning at that 12% rate, while also being liquid and maybe not in huge quantities, but it's at least transferable, and there's a liquidity pool, and there was still active trading on base all the way, and the price kind of ratcheted up with the redemption, or like the net asset value, like the current earnings to date. So it is a really attractive way to hold hex that you're at least planning on holding for the next year, that maybe you might want to sell or move at some point, and then you have options to either sell the base if there's liquidity in your size and at your price target, or you wait like these people did, and then you realize that liquidity after the stake ends. So Overall, I'm just thankful that anybody participates in this stuff. Um, and I think we'll probably see this start to heat up here in the next 3 days that's left in the minting. Ocean says, I'm surprised, expected the opposite. Should have been more PX staked, maybe less EX due to future gas costs in general. Minus 40% comparing first base cycle. People want to keep Hex liquid. On one hand, if you don't want to miss 24 bull run if it occurs, but it's so tempting to use base because 11 to 12% APY is way more attractive than 8 to 9 APY if you stick alone. Well, so the APY isn't as dramatic in that sense on the base stake, um, because the the bigger pays better. It doesn't mean um, like the savings aren't that dramatic. Was what you're describing. There's definitely a difference, but it's not quite as dramatic right there. Um, but um, the savings measured against the benefit of having the having it be a liquid token um, that doesn't need to be like restaked. That's a pretty substantial benefit to kind of wait for a bull run. Um, and the thing is that like during a bull run, these may be some of the most um, some of the best ways to hold hex and ways to buy hex, and there could be premiums in bull runs. Um, if you remember back to the um, like to the maxi launch, for instance, the the maxi price had gone from like 12 cents, like 20 cents or so. The hex price did right around that time, and it kind of felt like a bull run. And even though it like very soon after that, it was kind of clear that Pulse Chain wasn't launching in May of 2022. And then there's a pretty big sell off, and it kind of broke down a level um, early on. And then, especially during the team launch, which had um, it had kind of upwards pressure on the Maxi supply. Maxi was a pretty high premium, and then it restored back down to a discount. And now it's back near at a premium. Um, there during bull markets, there could be you know really if there's high demand for hex, there can be even like amplified demand for staked hex. Um, kind of like in a bear market, when there's low demand for hex, there's low demand for staked hex, and so that's why there are such discounts, especially on the longer stake pools. Base never got to too deep of a discount, um, but it's kind of that similar thing, where like at you know things that happen at the top and bottom of cycles. Um, And so, kind of like with the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, that one runs to a high premium during bull cycles, and then it's at a discount in bear cycles. So maybe pre-staked hex could be a better way to stake. Where um, say the base stake is um, like over the next cycle. What if like a crazy bull run comes in and there's just demand for hex all over the place, and the result of that is that um, base hits what I think will probably be 1.24 hex per base token after this next cycle. Um, with the um, so what could happen is it could hit that 1.24 rate, say 3 months in advance. So imagine so then if you were able to step in there and sell when to kind of and selling in that case is actually a really good thing because you don't really like if the stake is due in 3 months, it doesn't really make sense to overpay for what it might be worth at the end. And so you as a base holder, if you're there to step in and help sell and provide liquidity to kind of prevent people from getting a bad deal, I think it's actually a very good behavior. Um, And so if that is the case, if there's high demand for hex and high demand for pre-staked hex, what if you were able to realize the 12% year stake, but you realize it in 9 months? So in that case, since you are experiencing the same gain um, in 75% of the time, then it's like your AP your effective APY has increased by um, from 12% to what's 25% of 12% three. So like it's like you got 15% APY because you experienced that 12% gain over 9 months instead of 12 months. So um, so kind of how like it's in a way that's like two ways to give people almost like amplified exposure to T shares because they have like if you're buying the tokens at a discount, that's a way to get more, T shares, which really just translates into amplified hex inflation earnings. Like you're the one, like your piece of the pie is growing at a faster rate. That's really like the only reason that the T shares matters because it determines whose piece of the pie is growing and at what rate. And so in both, being able to buy these coins at discounts and to be able to achieve amplified um, performance in less time, it almost happens in the same way where if there's a premium and you have it to sell, you can realize that full stake term gain, but you can realize it in a shorter period of time. So kind of two different ways for amplifying that from both the perspective of someone buying these at a discount or someone who is minting them and then selling them at a premium. So I think that's a really useful component of these. Let's take a look at my favorite Maximus DAO related site that someone made. Um, see kind of where everything else is at. There we go. So we see Maxi is currently just at a slight on Ethereum. So Maxi at a slight premium to the current net asset value. Deci at a discount. Lucky at a slight premium, just bounced right around here. Trio right on par value, and Base is at par value. So let's look on Pulse Chain. So PMAXI at a discount on Pulse Chain. PDECI at a larger discount than it was on Ethereum. PLucky at a discount. PTrio at a slight discount. And PBase at a slight discount. So that's pretty considerable behavior difference in the Pulse Chain based token holders versus the Ethereum ones. And I think really what it comes down to is that there's so much activity happening on Pulse Chain right now that people are speculating on that like that same cohort of people, they're not doing similar things like that on Ethereum. And it could also be that because there's more liquidity on Pulse Chain, perhaps that's causing more trading in and out of them. Whereas perhaps with the even lower liquidity on Ethereum, that could just cause people who would otherwise be trading or selling. Maybe that's just making them hold instead. So kind of some different things factoring into the paper value of these. But if, again, the value of it is what you can realize at any point in time that matters to you. So, so that's kind of the way to differentiate. But I think just like there's really the high demand for high risk, high reward assets right now, and stake hex. Hex is kind of like the blue chip oldest one in the ecosystem. And so, in general, that is by definition less risky. And so that's probably why we're seeing that. Koshin asks, wow, 1.24 hex per base. It even sounds juicy. It's like having a time machine and grabbing cheaper T-shares. That's right. People who are able to buy the discount, they get cheaper T-shares. Could you please explain why DESI's so low? Will it stay that way if DESI's backed by hex 1-1 at the start? How did that occur? Because the hex is staked, and so it is not mintable and redeemable. So the price goes wherever the price goes. It's purely based on what the actions are of the people that own DESI and the people who may be in the market for DESI. And so one of the things that they factor into the price that they are exchanging the DESI at is how much hex it is backed by. And that's that 1-to-1 rate, and it's growing at about 30% annually. But so it's factoring in that the stake is backed by 1 hex per DESI, and it's increasing at that 30% rate. But it's also pricing in the length of time until it's actually mintable and redeemable. So it's it's called discounting to the present. So like discounting to the present, like you might discounting to the present is like something you may hear if you were in like finance class. It's like the determining the present value of a payment or stream of payments that is to be received in the future. So like it's kind of like a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush type of thing. And so you discount, the value to the present because it's not redeemable just yet. And so there's not like a short-term arbitrage trade you can do that kind of keeps it close to that. Whereas with base, because the stake ends every 1 year and you know with pretty high certainty what the redemption rate is going to be at that 369-day mark, it kind of isn't, it can't reasonably get that low. Because like if base was at a 30% discount, then because it's due in such a short amount of time, and also if you think about it, being at a 30% discount, it means that there's like 2 parts here, 1 part here. And so you buying this and then it returning to the value, if it's at a 33% discount, that is a 50% gain from the perspective of the buyer, because they're buying at 0.66, it returns to 1. That 0.33 difference over 0.66 is 50%. And so, that's just kind of how the market measures the supply and the demand, and then people, factor in the risks and everything else. But also, I think another thing that is causing DESI to be especially low is that more things that were situational to Maxi and DESI and the whole ecosystem in general, where Maxi had a really high premium, partially because it was the first time, like, many people didn't even know about it, and because a lot of people were using it mainly for staking. They weren't really thinking about the resale value, at least immediately. But then because of that, it quickly priced in like 2-to-1 premium. I think you got as high as like 2.5 to 1 versus Hex. And so everybody saw Maxi do that. And then when DESI came around, everyone was thinking DESI would do the same exact thing. But then because of that, more than twice the number of Hex that went into Maxi went into DESI. And so the DESI in general was just oversubscribed in a way, where it just swallowed up so much demand during the minting that all those people that would like to have pre-staked 10-year hex. Just a lot of them already had it. And then also people were looking for a quick flip. And so they weren't really minting Deci with the purpose of staking. They were really minting Deci as a way to do a short time frame, high risk, high reward trade. And because so many people were trying to do that, it like canceled out the possibility of it happening. And so, and then as the trade didn't go the way that people thought it would, they were unwinding and making their Deci available for sale because that user wants to take that money and then move on to another high risk, high reward thing. So, you know, a lot of different things kind of factor in, but that I think is more situational with the just what had happened in the months before and just kind of how people were feeling at the time. Good morning, Dip. What's up? So people essentially can buy Deci now to gain way more hex in 10 years or whatever time's left. If Deci has 30% discount, you get 30% more to whatever you get usually. Well, it's actually higher than that. So let me show you. Here's like there's let's share this tab and I'll share the link here. This just shows that it's kind of a different way to think about the APY from the perspective of someone who's buying any of these pool tokens, because kind of what I described earlier, where you realize that same amount of APY in a shorter amount of time, that's what buying discounts lets you do. So for instance, if you're buying at the price of 0.84 hex per Deci with 9 years left in the stake, the APY that you experience is 42.54 compared to had you staked for 9 years right now, you'd earn about 29% APY. So it really has that amplifying effect because not only are you buying more underlying coins like your principal, it's like you're getting an instant 15% principal boost, but you're also getting the T-shares that were locked in a year ago when the T-share rate was about 20% lower. So you get just more T-shares per hex staked, you're getting more hex principal. And so if you factor all that into just like the regular earnings benchmarked against you just instead of staking for 9 years, you get 42% APY because you're getting 10 years of yield in 9, you're getting more principal than you started with, and you have the T-shares that have marinated for a little bit. So you can just kind of that's how to think about these numbers, where you can see like how high the effective APY that you get as a result of this. Paper and SL, you want this T-shirts won't stop. Thanks for all the alpha and alpha token, sir. Thompson and I. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Team Deci Maxi. Yeah, I mean it's quite the trio there. Let's see what the team practices. Oh wow. Okay, so here's team. Team is at all-time lows right now as we speak. Looks like someone sold in a big way. When was this? On the 27th? No, it's not. Is that? Okay, yeah, no, on October 2nd. So right after the unlock phase ended. And I think similar phenomena like with base, it's like the coins finally became liquid at a time that's like way more bearish than it was a year ago when all this started. And so like as that first lockup ended, I think there was like a lot of selling. So buying team at a discount is actually a pretty effective way to acquire maxi, because in years 3, 6, and 9, if you stake team, you get your cut um, of something like what, 30 million maxi, right? Something like that. 20, 25 million maxi. And so buying team at a discount is a way to kind of earn hex, mainly in the form of maxi, but then also, I mean, from Desi, that's going to have a huge payout in 10 years. Lucky is going to have a huge payout in 7 years. Trio is going to have a huge payout in 3 years. The base payout, I mean, as we saw, it was relatively small for that annual payout, but especially years 3, 6, and 9, those are going to be pretty big payout years. And so, a combination of the relatively low short-term yield on team with that kind of lockup period being relieved, that's kind of where we're at. Let's look at what the team chart is on Chain. Team on Ethereum. So team maxi on Pulse Chain. Let's measure maxi. And yeah, so completely different story on Pulse Chain. Pulse Chain was actually the team versus maxi price actually reached about 1.56 at the highs, and now it's at 0.9. So one team on Pulse Chain is equal to 1 or 0.9 maxi. So what would that combined price be? That would be 0.9 plus 0.5, we said. So that is 1.4 over 2, so it's like 0.7. So the current combined, so assuming you minted team and then you had both your copy and the original, the combined team price is effectively 0.7. So, and same over here with the earnings on years 3, 6, and 9. So I think what it is like the market's very clearly telling us that that low risk, long term things, because even a year is long. Like team and base both have a year long stake period. Most things do not. Like, I mean, Hex is unique that it's longer, but the types of things that there's really high appetite for right now are not things that are kind of baking in a year-long schedule. Like the things that are attracting a lot of demand right now in the ecosystem are things where like the common sense strategies that you sell on the 6th day of a pump. So I think that's just kind of the reality of this moment in time. But I think that like the time horizons get stretched when the prices are going up. Everyone's got long-term time horizons when the prices are mooning, or everyone claims to have long-term time horizons when prices are mooning. But then during bear markets, it's like ruthless. So that's kind of the psychology that I'm seeing out there. Any plan for checks integration, anything? Yeah, we really would like to do that. The checks was definitely some kind of like important information about kind of how that plays out. And so probably the hardest part about checks is that from like the minting user's perspective, there's not so many benefits. There's benefits from the perspective of a buyer, but not necessarily from the perspective of a minter. Um, but I think that oh shoot, my camera just died. Let's see what we can do here. Um, so that's kind of the main hurdle that I see in with checks. But I do think it can be a really effective cross chain liquidity thing. So I really want to kind of dig more into that. But just at the moment now, um, nothing immediate. But I do think that there's really something there of a coin that's um, across both chains worth the same thing mathematically. So I do want to continue to visit that topic, but it may it may be in a while. It's not like there's some more urgent, probably even more like relevant solutions than that right now to work on. But I think that having a kind of like a cross chain, um, like almost like a stable coin against itself, I think is a good solution. All right, guys, I'm getting my camera set back up. Come on. Indeed, quite the trio. Any thoughts on Hedron 2.0? Um, so I'm still kind of waiting to see just exactly how it's gonna work out. Um, I don't really think it's necessary because Hedron's awesome as is. Um, and I don't know if it's a solution to the things that I think could be or not could be fixed because I don't want to suggest that something's broken that needs to be fixed. Um, but the um, kind of the core thing that I that like which maybe it is fixed. I'll have to see more into the actual implementation, but just how much hedron that the early accounts got was just kind of too much. It's a lot of overhead, but that is scheduled to go away. But um, but then now you're able to borrow even more hedron, which I don't know if that will cause more to be um, even like I don't think that that'll kick off the auctions because if as is the amount of hedron that you can borrow from your stake is very low, um, it's like there's not much reason to kind of do it. But now that you can get more out, um, what that does is um, it's like you still have like even though it's more, it still may not be at the level that makes sense to borrow it and not pay it back. And then also the if you now have more to pay back and you say you sold your hedron that you borrowed, and then because the hedron price can go up, it makes it even higher, like more risky to um, to borrow against. So I'm not exactly sure how to play out, but I'm all for you know innovation and trying new things. So I think it'll be a success. And as far as kind of how our products, I really don't know how it's going to play out because I mean Maxi is one of the largest holders of Hedron. Um, Poly is one of the largest holders. So we'll have to see how that happens. Yeah, if you want to acquire the most hex possible through staking, right now the best move is Desi, hands down. Yeah, literally. Desi all the way. Swapped all my Maxi 1 to 2 for Desi. That's awesome. That's really awesome. So what would that be? So say you minted 1 hex for 1 Maxi, and then you wait a little bit, and then you convert 1 Maxi into 2 Desi. So that's like minting 2 Desi with 1 hex. And so you effectively doubled the APY. So you are experiencing 60% APY. Well played. That's awesome. It was a good conversation you had with Maddie the other day. Yeah, that was good. Let's check in on my leaderboard here on Fame. See if I'm number 4 on the leaderboard. Look how much bigger everyone else's positions are. 5 times my size for like just over 3. Is this tweet inappropriate? Small something, big something? So I'm thinking that we're due for more upside. And the reason I say that is that because the last 3 days being green like this, like I was waiting, like if it was going to have a big sell off right into here, but because it didn't, that gives me reason to believe that um, that like at least a local bottom may be formed here, and there's really not that much resistance from above. Maybe one little area there, and then this area too. It's just that broad area. So I think we at least have to go up to here. But who knows? It's impossible to predict. Hey, Xcode DC, can you discuss EX surprising everyone? No better time than now to enter base at max discount. Yeah, I mean, like, I think that um, like EX being Ethereum native can still attract Ethereum native users, and so and whereas with Pulse Chain, um, it's like the users are already there, and it's already all from the same ecosystem, and so because of that, bull markets other than our own are bringing in new people top of funnel, and Hex is on the chain that they are probably getting onboarded into, and so um, things like that can be very good for eHex, um, and also, I mean, with the Pulse chain community, there's just so much demand for other things that things like eHex, I think, got sold off in a big way compared to pHex for people to lever up the risk. So I think as that kind of settles out, or maybe the just kind of that cycle kind of starts moving in the other direction, um, that can be a positive catalyst for eHex. Thank you for breaking down things, awesome Alpha. Thank you. All right, you guys. I think it's time to call it. My camera's not working. Thanks for everyone who joined me this evening. Yeah, have fun, everyone. Perpetuals.maximus.cash. Join the pool. Follow me on Twitter. And have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.